There are moments in life when silence speaks louder than any words ever could. In the clamor of a noisy world, the quiet soul finds its strength not in speaking, but in holding its peace. To always be silent is not to be weak, it is to be wise. It is to understand that sometimes the greatest power lies in restraint, in turning away from the battles that seek to consume our hearts. Cutting all contacts may seem harsh to the eyes of the world, but it is often the most merciful act we can offer ourselves. For not every connection is meant to last. Some bonds are chains, not wings. Some voices are shackles, not songs. When the voices around us threaten our peace, when the presence of others steals our joy and clouds our mind, silence and separation become the refuge of the soul. There is a sacred treasure called peace, one that the heart longs for above all else. When you find that each conversation, each meeting, each encounter with certain people leaves you unsettled, anxious, or weary, it is a solemn warning. Peace is not something to be bargained for or sacrificed at the altar of companionship. It is a precious gift, meant to be guarded as a treasure, not worn down by constant strife. When you walk away from a discussion feeling heavy, or when the sound of a name brings a tightness to your chest, it is a voice from deep within crying out for protection. The soul was not made to carry burdens it was never meant to bear. Relationships that disturb your peace are like storms battering a fragile vessel. Each wave threatens to capsize you, and silence is the harbor you must seek. Many deceive themselves into believing that endurance is strength. They think to endure constant turmoil is a mark of character or loyalty. But endurance in a toxic environment is not strength, it is slow self-destruction. A life constantly shaken by discord is a life that cannot flourish. It is in the stillness of peaceful surroundings that the soul is nourished and can rise anew. Know this, you owe no explanation for stepping away from what disturbs your heart. To choose silence and distance when peace is shattered is not cowardice, but courage. It is a refusal to be worn thin, a declaration that your spirit deserves rest. The world will not always understand this, but your soul will thank you for it. So listen carefully to the stirrings of unrest. When your heart speaks of tiredness after every exchange, do not dismiss it. That is your sign, your clear signal that silence and separation are the balm your spirit craves. It is the first step toward healing and true freedom. Words, when used rightly, can heal, encourage, and build. But when they become arrows aimed to wound, they reveal the true nature of those who wield them. If you find that every conversation becomes a battlefield where words cut deeper than swords, then it is time to draw back into silence. The soul cannot thrive where speech becomes a weapon of destruction. To be misunderstood is one thing, but to be deliberately maligned is another altogether. When your intentions are twisted and your words turned against you, every dialogue becomes a trap. The very language meant for communion becomes a snare, designed to confuse, hurt, and undermine your peace. In such company, silence is not weakness. It is the fortress that guards what remains whole within you. Many fail to recognize the damage inflicted by poisonous words because they feel compelled to respond, to defend, to prove their worth. But responding only feeds the battle. It is like throwing fuel on a fire that burns not the other but yourself. Silence in such moments is a shield raised high, a barrier against the chaos that seeks to consume your spirit. There is wisdom in restraint. The lips that close in the face of insult hold power that loud words cannot match. When you refuse to engage with the weapons aimed at you, you rob the enemy of their prize. You take away their satisfaction. You deny them the victory they crave. Silence in such times is a victory cry, quiet, yet unmistakably strong. Let not the cruel tongues of others dictate your peace. When words become weapons, choose to disarm the fight with your silence. Cut the cords of contact that bind you to pain and hurt. Protect your heart as the most precious thing you possess, for once it is broken, no words can fully mend it. Remember, not every word deserves your reply. Not every slight merits your attention. When the very people meant to bring light into your life instead cast shadows, the path forward often lies in walking away without a sound, leaving behind the battlefield that never was yours to conquer. In the stillness that follows cutting contact, you will find restoration. The wounds inflicted by words will begin to heal, and your spirit will rise, stronger and more resilient, unshaken by the sharpness of tongues. There is a sorrow deeper than words when your presence is met not with gratitude, but with indifference. When you give of yourself, your time, your heart, your energy, and it is received as a mere convenience, a tool to be used and discarded, your spirit begins to wither quietly within. The wound of exploitation is often hidden behind polite smiles and empty promises. Many do not realize how deeply their worth is undermined when those closest to them take their presence for granted. To be seen only when useful, to be called upon only in times of need, is to be valued not as a person, but as a resource. Such treatment strips the soul of dignity and replaces joy with quiet despair. The heart longs for mutuality, for a reciprocity that honors the giver and the receiver alike. When one side gives endlessly and the other only takes, the imbalance becomes a silent thief of peace. It steals joy, breeds bitterness, and leaves the giver feeling hollow, as if their very existence is unnoticed, unless serving a purpose. It is easy to confuse such exploitation with love or friendship, for often the disguises are well worn. The exploiters cloak their selfishness in the garb of neediness or crisis. They demand your presence, your energy, and your grace, but they offer nothing in return but obligation and exhaustion. When you find yourself repeatedly reaching out, extending kindness and offering support without it ever being reciprocated, your soul is crying out for a break. To cut such cords is not cruelty, it is justice, an act of reclaiming your worth and protecting your fragile spirit. Silence becomes your ally here. A refusal to fill spaces where you are not truly wanted, where your value is unrecognized. To walk away quietly, without bitterness or accusation, is a powerful statement that you will no longer tolerate being a mere afterthought in the lives of others. This act of cutting contact is not a rejection of people, but a profound acceptance of yourself. It says, I am worthy of respect. I deserve relationships that honor my presence, not exploit it. When you step away from those who drain you, you make room for those who will cherish you. Your absence will speak volumes to those who took you for granted. It will stir the conscience of some and the indifference of others, but your peace will be restored, and your heart will find space to breathe and grow, free from the chains of exploitation. Let your silence be a sanctuary, a sacred place where your spirit is no longer depleted but restored. In that quiet, you will rediscover your value, not through the eyes of others, but through the light of your own truth. There is a heavy burden carried by those who live in the relentless shadow of judgment. When every word you speak, every action you take, is met with suspicion or criticism, the soul grows weary. The constant need to defend oneself drains the spirit and steals joy from the simplest moments. To feel perpetually on trial before the eyes of others is a cruel captivity. Your thoughts, motives, and intentions become battlegrounds where you must forever justify your existence. The heart, designed for freedom and peace, becomes shackled by the chains of relentless scrutiny. And often this need to defend arises not because you are truly at fault, but because some refuse to see your truth or have made up their minds before hearing you. In such cases, your explanations fall on deaf ears or are twisted to suit their narrative. The injustice is not in their judgment, but in your wasting precious energy to contest it. Defending yourself constantly exhausts your soul. It drains the light from your eyes and the courage from your heart. You begin to lose sight of who you are, overwhelmed by the weight of others' opinions. The person you defend against is often not the true adversary, but the fear within that craves acceptance and peace. There is wisdom in recognizing when to stop fighting battles not meant for you. Not every accusation deserves a reply. Not every misunderstanding requires explanation. Choosing silence over defense is not surrender. It is strength. It is the refusal to be worn down by the harshness of an unyielding world. When you feel this need to defend yourself constantly, it signals that the ground you stand on is no longer safe. The soil beneath your feet trembles with unrest, and your spirit cries out for refuge. The way to find that refuge is through cutting contact with the sources of this relentless scrutiny. Walking away does not mean abandoning truth or integrity. Rather, it means preserving them by not allowing your spirit to be crushed beneath the weight of perpetual conflict. In silence and separation you protect your heart's sanctity and renew your strength. The world may not understand your retreat into silence and distance. They may mistake it for weakness or indifference, but those who truly know you will see it as the courage it is. A brave step to guard the sacredness of your soul. Let your silence be a quiet declaration that you will no longer participate in the exhausting cycle of constant defense. Let it be the beginning of healing and restoration, a place where your spirit can breathe without fear or judgment. In time, your absence from such toxic spaces will shine as a beacon, revealing the cost of relentless criticism and the value of peace. It will invite reflection and perhaps repentance, but more importantly, it will restore your soul's peace and dignity. Choose silence and separation not as signs of defeat, but as sacred acts of self-preservation. In the quiet you will find strength anew, and the burden of constant defense will fall away like a worn-out garment. There comes a time in every life when the soul yearns to grow, to stretch beyond its former limits, to rise higher than ever before. Yet not every company encourages this sacred unfolding. When those around you hinder your progress, when their presence acts as a chain rather than wings, it is a clear sign that silence and separation must follow. Growth is a tender shoot that requires nurturing soil, fresh air, and light. But some relationships are like weeds, choking the life from the seedling, robbing it of sustenance, and preventing it from reaching toward the sun. When you find that your dreams shrink, or your spirit falters in the presence of certain people, beware. This is the choking grip of toxicity. Often, the ones who stunt your growth do so unknowingly, caught in their own fears and insecurities. They may be comfortable in the familiar, and your blossoming threatens to disrupt their fragile peace. Their doubts become your chains. Their skepticism becomes the heavy yoke around your neck. It is painful to realize that those closest to you may not cheer your ascent, but rather envy it. Their whispered discouragements, subtle criticisms, and lack of support are like shadows that dim your light. When your progress is met with resistance instead of celebration, silence and cutting contact is a form of self-preservation. The wise soul recognizes the importance of environment. Just as a plant cannot thrive in a barren land, neither can the spirit flourish amid negativity and doubt. To protect your growth, you must seek solitude away from those who hold you back, even if they once walked beside you. Cutting contact is not an act of malice, but an act of courage. It is a declaration that your dreams and your future are worth protecting. You owe no explanations for choosing your peace over painful relationships. Growth demands sacrifice, and sometimes that sacrifice is the cutting of ties. In the silence that follows severance, you will discover the freedom to grow unhindered. Your spirit will stretch and expand in ways it could not before. The chains that bound you will fall away, and your soul will breathe deeply the air of new beginning. Do not mistake the silence for loneliness. It is a sacred space, a garden where your growth is tended by your own hands and protected from those who would harm it. In this quiet, your potential is nurtured and allowed to blossom. The journey of growth is often solitary. It requires courage to walk alone, to trust the path unseen, and to believe in the promise of what is to come. Those who truly love you will understand this necessity, even if it means letting you go. When the voices around you become anchors dragging you into the depths of doubt and stagnation, choose to cut those ties. Choose to be silent in their presence, and ultimately silent in their absence. For silence is not emptiness. It is the fertile ground of renewal. Your spirit deserves companions who lift you higher, not chains that weigh you down. Seek those who nurture your growth, who celebrate your victories, and who walk with you toward the light. Your journey is sacred, and your growth is a divine right. Remember, to grow is to live fully. To stifle your growth is to deny your very existence. When those around you dim your light, be silent, walk away, and trust that the right soil awaits you, a place where your soul can flourish unbound. There are moments in life when the heart perceives what the eyes cannot see, and the spirit senses what the mind cannot fully comprehend. When you find yourself burdened by a heavy, unexplainable weight in the presence of certain individuals, it is a warning bell sounding deep within your soul. This weight is a silent oppressor, pressing down on your joy and vitality. This heaviness is not always obvious to others, for it dwells beneath the surface, a quiet drag upon your spirit that saps your strength and dulls your light. It is a subtle cloud hanging over your conversations, your laughter, your very being. You may struggle to articulate its presence, but its impact is unmistakable. Such weight is a spiritual oppression that seeks to bind you in chains of discouragement, fear, and unrest. It is a force that cannot be reasoned with or argued away. The more you try to carry it, the heavier it grows. It is a silent thief, stealing peace and replacing it with exhaustion. Often this burden comes from those who unknowingly or deliberately carry their own darkness, wounds unhealed, bitterness unresolved, and despair unspoken. Their pain becomes contagious, and when you are near, you absorb it like a sponge, leaving you drained and overwhelmed. You may find yourself walking away from these encounters feeling empty, as though your very life force has been leached out. Your heart aches with an invisible sorrow, and your mind becomes clouded with confusion. It is a clear sign that this environment is toxic to your soul's well-being. Many try to convince themselves to endure this heaviness, believing that love or obligation demands their presence. But enduring such oppression is a slow death to the spirit. True love never requires one to sacrifice their peace or carry burdens not their own. There is a sacred wisdom in recognizing when to step away from the weighty presence of others. To cut contact and remain silent is not abandonment. It is an act of self-preservation and respect for the divine light within you. It is choosing life over spiritual suffocation. In the silence that follows separation, you will feel the oppressive weight begin to lift. Your spirit will breathe more freely, and the light that darkness sought to extinguish will begin to shine once again. This quiet is not loneliness, but restoration. The world may misunderstand your withdrawal, but your soul will rejoice. You are not running away from people, but running toward your own healing and wholeness. In protecting your peace, you honor the sacredness of your own being. Be attentive to the subtle warnings your spirit gives. When you sense this unexplainable heaviness, do not ignore it. It is the language of your soul pleading for relief. To remain silent and cut contact is to listen and respond with courage. Remember, not all burdens are yours to bear. The weight others carry is theirs alone, and to take it upon yourself is to deny the gift of freedom given to your spirit. Your peace is not a prize to be won, but a sanctuary to be protected. Silence becomes a shield in such seasons, a barrier against the slow creeping of despair. It creates space for healing and the rekindling of hope. It is in this quiet that you are restored and made whole again. The power of silence and separation is often underestimated. It is a sacred act that guards your soul from the corrosive effects of unspoken pain and hidden darkness. Through this act you reclaim your joy and strength. So heed the whisper within when you feel that unexplainable weight. Do not hesitate to step back, to be silent, and to sever the ties that drag you into heaviness. In doing so, you pave the way for peace to return, and for your spirit to soar once more.